Well, hello guys. Welcome back to another video of In Your Dreams. We left off at chapter 6. So, I just want to let everybody know this fanfic has been very ongoing. I started it back in 2015, I believe. And it's not that I stopped writing it, it's just, you gotta be inspired and you gotta not have writer's block. And so it's taken me a while, but we have still a lot more to go, obviously. Anyways, let's get started. It's going to be chapter 7. We are supposed to become closer. Here's where the ball's going to drop on a lot of things. Alright. About halfway in the middle of the week, the kiss would be a long-faded memory as they all did videos together. Jack and Mark had enough material to last them for the next several days. Jack had enough to post, even as he would be flying back home. Then there was Bree, who was slowly getting in the hang of doing this as a hobby. You could say they were all preparing for the long trips and the goodbyes, but within each ticking moment that went by put a strain on Jack and Bree. They'd come together by each night as they laid in bed, but would completely avoid each other each day. It would break their hearts, but this only happened because they didn't know how to properly say goodbye to one another when the time came. And when the time was around the corner, Mark insisted on them staying for another week or so. And this only became a consideration that's until Jack got ill. Then there came the surprise when Bree's friend Riley called out of nowhere. No job, no home, no anything. It left her devastated and in tears. But then when Mark heard the conversation, a miracle had happened. In 4 days or less, Riley and a few things from their small home were out in LA. Upon arrival, Riley and Bree had given each other a long, united hug before Mark cleared. We're going to yawn while reading. I don't know. It's like a bedtime story. Sorry, guys. Upon arrival, Riley and Bree had given each other a long united hug before Mark cleared his throat. So this is Bree. Oh, sorry. God, I'm messing up today. So this is Riley. Bree had let go and turned her attention to Mark. Yeah, this is her. Riley, this is Mark. Riley grinned and shook his hand. Hello, thanks for flying me out here. Mark smiled and nodded. No problem. Riley smiled back as they went to go get her bags. So Rise, did you make sure to sell most of the stuff? She nodded in response. Yeah, that I did. I got enough money to get our own place, but it's not gonna last long. Mark butted into the conversation. So how about you guys stay with me until you get your own place? I got room. Bree darted her eyes over at him. Really? Like a bunch of us being roomies? He nodded his head. Sure, why not? She shrugged her shoulders before looking at Riley. Before she could say anything, well, that's nice of you, and we will only accept if you're sure about this. Riley smiled as her words fell from her lips. I am definitely sure. When Jack gets better, we will move my little studio to my room and get you settled in. Riley made a face at the name as she picked up her bags. Jack? Who's Jack? Bree rolled her eyes as she grabbed the last bag. Sean. He's our friend. She's just like, Sean. He's our friend. She's already not liking this. Wow. Okay. So much hostility in one sentence, and it wasn't even supposed to be like that. Wow. Okay. She looked at her with a confused expression. Jack, Sean, how many names does this guy need? Bree nudged Riley's side and was tempted to growl under her breath. Be nice. Jack is like his nickname, but his real name is Sean. Riley nodded. Ah, okay then. An hour or so later, after all the small talk they had, and who would have what bedroom, they came walking in the door. Bree, however, was the first one through the door, and she was headed to the bedroom to check on Jack, when a scream came blaring, followed by a sorry. She turned around and saw Mark was laughing. What the hell just happened? Mark couldn't breathe. Your friend just walked in on Jack as he was showering. Oh, hell no. I'm sorry. This girl's only been there for a day. She's already causing problems. This girl needs to go. And I wrote this. Alright. Let's keep going. Riley looked at her. I didn't know, okay? You all said he'd be sleeping. She turned around to grab her phone out of her bag. Oh, and dudes, I hate to admit, but he had a sexy body. A little hairy, but hey, still gorgeous. Bree's hands clenched into a fist. She's ready to fucking go to Pound Town, man. She ready to draw blood. Oh my god, I can't. Oh my god, this is gonna be good. And her face was slightly red. Mark saw it and shook his head. He was gonna tell her to calm down, but he didn't know what good that'll do. So he went up to her and hugged her tightly. So she stood there and allowed him to hug her. But when Riley turned around, she had read them all wrong. Oh, that's so cute. Oh my god, I'm going to kill her. Like, I'd kill her. I would just be like, listen here, okay? Hands off of one guy. I don't care what you do with the other guy. Hands off of him until you just need to shut up, because you just... Oh, she has like that preppy attitude type thing. I can't do it. Why did I write her like that? Ugh. She's disgusting. I don't like her. Alright. The look that was on Bree's face was enough to single-handedly murder her best friend. I'm there. I'm with you. I agree. There's no, you know, I don't shame you. Alright, here we go. She hadn't even been here for 5 minutes and she was ready to mess her face up. Do it. Do it. Sorry. Mark eventually let go by this time to catch the same look and turned around. That's nothing, so don't awe us, please. Riley shrugged and went to tend to her things. Bree was so angry that she waited for Jack to get out of the bathroom. When he finally did, he found her sitting in the corner of the bedroom, writing. He hadn't known everything that had happened. He knew her best friend was flying out. He knew she would have to move soon, but here she was, writing to her heart's content. So he locked the bedroom door and sat on the floor in front of her. Aww. When she noticed that Jack sat in front of her, she closed her journal and whispered, "Sorry for my friend walking in on you like that. How are you feeling?" He smiled as he gazed into her eyes. "Yeah, that was a bit weird, awkward, odd, and I feel a little bit better. Now tell me everything, please." She chuckled and shook her head. "You just don't take no for an answer, do you, Sean?" He chuckled and shook his head. "Nope." She moved her journal and patted on the floor to the side of her. "Alright, you win." He smirked and moved beside her. She rested her head back against the wall and started from the beginning. "I lost my job because I took my vacation time over PAX, and I guess the boss didn't like that idea, so he fired me. I lost the place I was living in. I'm gonna end up killing Riley, and now I'm gonna be living here with Mark while I put myself together again." He looked at her and kissed the side of her cheek. "Well, it'll get better because you have me and Mark. We are best friends, you and I, till the end." He leaned in and whispered, "Try not to kill anybody, because I won't be able to save you from that." "Well, the most I could do is to break you out of jail." They both laughed and Bree whispered, "Playing the escapist doesn't mean you are a professional at breaking people out of jail." He grinned and began to argue with her. They were going back and forth when Riley knocked on the door. Jack got up and answered the door, considering Bree was still irritated with her. He opened the door to Riley, who was gasping. "Oh, wow, you look good with clothes on, too." Jack pursed his lips together as his cheeks flushed. "Thank you, I think. What do you want, if you don't mind me asking?" She smiled as she extended her hand. "Well, I wanted to apologize for walking in like that. But it was totally Bree and Mark's fault. They said you'd be resting. Something about you being sick. Also, I wanted to introduce myself as Riley. And also, Mark wants to know if you guys want to go out and eat. If that's if you feel better." Jack looked back at Bree, whose head was hanging down to her knees. "Bree, you want to go out tonight?" She didn't answer him, so he tried to bribe her to talk. "I'll let you wear my blue hoodie." Her head popped up to glare at him, and he turned his attention to Riley. "Riley, let us get ready to go." She nodded and headed back to the living room. Jack returned to Bree's side, extended his hands out. "Come on, get up. Let's get ready." Bree took his hands in hers and stood up. Moments like this, where they stood face to face for just a split second, was enough to want them to kiss, but they never did. Not once. They'd get dressed in the same room, and Jack would always keep his eyes to himself. He'd always be tempted to look, but he never did. Now, as they were getting ready, Riley had the impression that Jack was a single guy. Sure, she didn't know him, but she wanted to make casual conversation tonight with him. She was seeking him out in more ways than one. So even though tonight would be her first night here, She wanted to leave an impression on him that he would never forget. She got dressed in the bathroom and wore some black mini skirt with a low-cut tee. She put on stockings and some high heels. By the time everyone was ready, she stepped out, and Mark's mouth dropped as well as Jack's. You know, you look good as well, Jack complimented, causing the anger to casually rise in Bree. By the end of this night, she was going to kill Riley. She could feel it. I mean, she's like casually going to like chop her body up. Like, we're gonna witness a murder. Like, these people don't understand. This girl is out to kill. She's like, no, that's my best friend. That's my love. That's my dude. Like, I'm going to kill you, kind of thing. Yeah. Anyways. a car ride and a short walk later, they were being seated at their table. Bree, of course, would sit between Mark and Jack, but Jack sat by Riley as well. This only fueled more flames to the fire of her anger. And she is sitting there like a time bomb, just waiting to go off. Oh my god, this is going to be so bad. This is going to be so bad. As a casual conversation struck up, Bree silently ate her food. So Jack, Sean, what do you do for a living? She leaned in and squeezed his thigh and he bit his lip. Dude, I'm gonna kill her. I would kill her. Like, like Bree, you need to lay down the law. Okay, sorry. I have issues. This is so bad. YouTube, that's my job, he said softly with a smile. YouTube, that's cool. Interesting, I gotta say. He nodded as he bit into his food and chewed. Mark cut in, I do YouTube as well. That's a thing now. Riley made a face as she took a drink. See, it seems like it is. Dude, I'm a killer. I'm gonna take it. Do it. Like, I'm with Bree. Bree, I back you up. Alright. I'm rooting for my own main character right now. As the conversation continued, Bree stayed even more silent. Not to mention, she could see everything Riley was doing to Jack. She wanted to rip her face off and beat her till she learned not to touch him. But how could she do that? She'd make it obvious what she felt, so it was obvious for her to stay quiet. She's gonna let it fluster to the point where she's going to kill her. Like, she's going to lose her shit on someone. It's funny because she never does. By the end of the dinner, I don't know why the end of the end is there. It's the end of the world as we know it. Alright, by the end of the dinner, Jack was sucked into all of Riley's attention. Meanwhile, Bree was keeping herself calm by focusing on something else, like the strings on the hoodie. This kept her from paying attention to what was going on. Somehow it worked as well. Her anger slowly dissipated. No, you gotta stay angry. You gotta stay angry. Oh man, what I don't get is why we don't see I don't understand why I never put what Jack is seeing happen to Bree at the same, he doesn't notice. You would think a guy, but then again, sometimes guys don't notice. So, you know, sometimes guys are very oblivious. Sorry, dudes. sorry. Alright. Eventually, when they headed back home, Jack would focus on Bree. Just as they walked into the door, Mark would be talking to her. They make a cute couple, huh? I hope she actually goes out with him. Riley spoke quietly into Jack's ear, and he looked at her. They aren't a couple. I can promise you that. Riley tilted her head at him. Oh, well, it's obvious that one day they will be. Like, maybe you and I might be one day. Jack said nothing to that last sentence. He actually stayed quiet as he kicked his shoes off by the door. Good night, Riley. He managed to grumble as he walked away to the bedroom. Something about that sentence just rubbed him the wrong way. Okay, so he feels something. I made him feel something. Okay, good. When Bree noticed that Jack went to the bedroom, she nodded towards Mark as some sort of way to say goodnight. Going to bed, Riley, see you in the morning. She headed back into the room and opened the door to Jack, stripping down to his boxers once more. For the first time, Bree actually wanted to take in the sight of his body, and for the first time, Bree actually wanted to take in the sight of his body and features on his skin. She realized if he caught her staring, that she wouldn't have any excuse to give him but the truth. So she managed a low whisper to him. Hey, you. He looked back at her as he climbed into bed. Hey, come lay with me. He patted the spot beside him. I will. Give me a second. She changed into a tee and some shorts for bed. She slid in beside him and smiled. I feel like I haven't talked to you all damn day. He frowned slightly as he cupped her cheek. I'm sorry. She shook her head and kissed lightly over his roaming thumb. It's okay, really. Riley was talking your ear off. He managed to chuckle. Yeah, she's one crazy chick. But let me ask you something without you getting angry with me. She yawned and closed her eyes. Sure. Anything. He could tell she was gonna fall asleep soon. So he wrapped his arm around her after turning the TV on and the light off. Do you like Mark enough to actually date him? She managed to pat his head and sleepily mumble, I wouldn't date him. No, he isn't my first choice. He closed his eyes as a smile appeared on his face. Well, who's the first? She dozed off. She dozed off for just a split second, and only managed a few words to escape. Sleep, Sean. Ugh, there's so many S's there. Sleep, Sean. Riley figured out that Jack and Bree shared the bedroom together. It wasn't the fact that Mark told her. It was the fact that she watched Bree go into the bedroom and never came back out. This bothered Riley down to the bone. She wanted Jack, and Jack she would get. Meanwhile, as Bree and Jack slept, she began to dream, and within this dream, she softly whimpered, Sean. Wow. That's crazy. So I'm gonna do, okay, how many, so I'm gonna do this chapter and probably 2 more, and then I will save 11 and 12 and 13 for another video. So Yay. Okay. So I'm gonna try to not react as much because I know what happens because I wrote the damn thing, but I'm gonna try to leave my thoughts towards the end. Definitely had some typos in that last one. I'm gonna have to fix that. Um, there's a few chapters that have typos, and I think it's mostly because sometimes during certain chapters I was trying to type on my phone versus typing on a computer when I was doing those chapters. So, yeah. Sorry. Alright, here we go. This is chapter 8, The Path of. The Path of. Sometimes in our dreams, everything seems so perfect until there was a lurking gray cloud hanging above her. A cloud that would represent destruction, heartbreak, and if she allowed the cloud to turn from gray to black, it stood for death. But somehow she managed to wake herself up in a cold sweat in the dead of night. Sean would always be sleeping beside her, up until a few days ago. She'd find herself now sleeping on the sofa while Riley ended up taking her place in bed with Sean. He had stayed just a bit longer than what he was supposed to, but it was only because Mark had asked him to help him move things around in the apartment. Then when they went to purchase a new bed for the bedroom, Jack had said, "Oh, I'll stay until it's delivered. That way we can put the frame up and all." Mark didn't see a problem with it, and it made Bree happy that she wouldn't have to say goodbye to him. But eventually postponing goodbyes would be worse. And that it was. A month and a half, and Jack had stayed with them. A month and a half was enough for him and Riley to become closer as well. It was enough for Bree to be sleeping on that very couch with headphones blaring into her ears so she could drown out Riley's giggles from down the hall. Sometimes Bree would force her eyes closed just so she would sleep, but each time she'd close them, Jack's eyes would appear, and she could feel the silent tears run down her cheek. She'd wipe them and curse Riley in her head. She'd curse at herself for not even telling Jack how she felt. The words would never form, and she didn't know how to make them form. With Riley in the picture now, Jack didn't know if they were dating or not, but if they were, he'd feel bad about it, 'cause everything about this would feel wrong to him. It truly felt wrong. When he made a joke and Riley didn't laugh or didn't get the reference, it bothered him. In his mind, she was always forcing a smile. Maybe a smile. Or she was always forcing a laugh. Maybe a smile. Who knows? But at the end of every night, when he was laying next to Riley, he'd imagine Bree. He'd imagine her nudging him for the blanket. He'd try to imagine her whispering Sean in her sleep. He knew why she did it. And it was because of the dreams. And that's why he held her just a bit tighter. when she slept. Oh. About somewhere midway in the upcoming weeks, Jack would be dating Riley. Jack would want to take it seriously, but each time he was in a room with Bree, he couldn't. Because each time he saw her, he would see those hazel eyes. Within her eyes, he'd always see disapproval and sadness. He'd see her with a smile. And the thing is, she wasn't smiling the way she once had. Oh my god. Bree eventually knew about Jack and Riley's relationship. It became obvious when Riley would call him baby. It became even more obvious when she kissed him. The first time they ever kissed in front of her, she excused herself and ran to the bathroom. Her stomach twisted and knotted. The hot tears threatened to spill out of her, but she only got sick to her stomach. When Mark came looking for her later, he found her laying on the bathroom floor. And at first, he thought she had done something stupid. But when he checked over her, he knew what was exactly wrong. It's alright. They went out for the night, so you and I can talk if you like. She shook her head and went to speak, but words never formed. Just the tears. He sat down beside her and wrapped an arm around her. He held her close. Shh, it's okay. She shook her head again. It's not okay. How is it okay? It's not okay. He nodded as he wanted to comfort her, but he didn't know how. Usually Jack made sure she was okay, but now it was his turn to take care of her. So he stayed quiet and allowed her to cry until she couldn't anymore. By the time Jack and Riley came back, Mark had been sitting on the couch with Bree, who was sleeping. "Oh, that's so cute. What did you two lovebirds do while we were gone?" Mark darted his eyes up and sighed. He wanted to make it clear that they weren't a couple, but Riley would never take a hint or even listen. However, he'd see the look in Jack's eyes and knew he felt something as soon as Riley had called them a couple. So if he could make Jack jealous, then maybe something would change or something would happen. We did nothing besides sit here and talk. Riley nodded with a smile. "Ah, okay. Well, we had dinner, of course, and went to a movie." Jack slid his hoodie off and shoes. "Yeah, it wasn't much. We enjoyed ourselves." Riley smirked at him. "One of us a bit more than the other." Mark threw his hands up. "Alright, a little too much information, but however, I will call it a night." Several hours later, in the middle of the night, Jack got up from the bed. He knew sooner or later he'd have to pack to leave. He didn't know when, but he knew in the upcoming week or so. But with the secret he held inside, he just couldn't sleep at all. He would toss and turn throughout the night until he actually woke up. His mind would be on how Bree would take the news of his secret. He sat straight in the bed and leaned against the bed frame itself for an hour. He sat there and planned all the scenarios that he could think of inside of his head. He finally got up and went into the living room. He watched over Bree. He was just standing there like a creeper, and it made him chuckle thinking like that. But it was good for him to laugh for once, because it was the genuine laugh. He saw that her journal laid on the table and he didn't dare to touch it, at least not this time around. Instead, he moved her enough to lay behind her. He smiled at how her body automatically leaned against his. He leaned down and he was quiet, almost too quiet, but could still hear the Irish. But you could still hear the Irish accent flowing out of his lips. "Hi, beautiful boss girl." He chuckled quietly as he felt her shift. Bree was deep into her sleep, enough to dream about the gray cloud that hung above her head. Everything was falling apart. There would be paths for her to take, but she didn't know which one to take. She didn't know anything at this point. She felt utterly alone and depressed until she heard him. It was enough to wake up, but not enough to open her eyes. She quickly gripped his hand, and intertwined their fingers. It's amazing that a month had went by with them not sleeping together in the same bed, yet here they were, hand-holding, and the feeling still remained. Just a calmness would soothe, and she managed to whisper out to him, "Sean." He heard her whisper instead of the quiet whimper of his name. He knew she was awake, but he didn't say anything except, "I got you. I am right here. It's okay. No matter what, I will always have you." Remember that I'll always be the background voice within your head. He whispered into her ear and eventually fell asleep, only to wake up an hour before Riley. He'd always climb back into bed. Bree, however, didn't mind that he laid beside her on the sofa. She didn't mind that he'd do this up until he finally left Mark's house. He'd simply leave with a path that was on a self-destruction time bomb. First, it starts with the secret, her journal, and then YouTube. Okay, so I'm gonna explain why I teared up on that last part there. That part where it says, "I'll always be the background voice in your head." For those who don't remember, Jack, the real Jack, Septic Guy, he did a vlog where I think he went back to like his old cabin, and he had talked about how he loved just, you know, the way his community was. And he goes, "Even if you don't watch the video and you just allow me to play in your room or in your living room, just to be like that background voice," that's why I teared up. Because for me personally, when I was going through a hard time, when I lived out in Vegas, I went through a really rough time out there. And Jack was that background voice. He was that person for me. So for me to read back words that I wrote of something that I remember kind of just like took me back for a minute, and it was like, oh, that's emotional. Like, oh shit, that makes me sad. Oh man. Okay. I said I was gonna do. I think I said I was gonna do 7, 8, 9, 10, and then I was gonna leave 11, 12, 13. But I think I'm going to do. I think I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna leave you guys here on this one. We're gonna. It's a pretty long one, so I think I'm gonna split them up. Split them up in chapters. So next time we'll do 9. We'll do 9 and 10. Thank you guys for listening. If you listen to this chapter, and then you know, it's. You know, I still have a chapter that's in drafts right now that I'm working on, so hopefully I can have it up. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoy this, and I hope you guys come back to another couple of chapters. Bye now. Bye. Don't cry. Don't be sad. It's gonna be okay. Every little thing's gonna be okay. Bye.